Welcome to California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. I'm so glad you're with us today. We are joined by Jim Patterson. He is a supervisor in San Luis Obispo County. He brings with him Stacie Jacob. She is the executive director of the San Luis Obispo County Visitor and Conference Bureau, and we are celebrating California Wine Month, September. It's 2012. I'm ready for some wine, Stacie, but let's talk more importantly about how we got to have a California Wine Month.
Yeah, it's interesting. California being the largest producing wine state in the U.S., never really embraced their own industry. And so 8 years ago, some of the folks got together from the regional wine perspective and said, we need to take back some market share that we might be losing to foreign imports. And so they got the governor involved, they got the California wine. Of course, yeah. And
from Hollywood.
The beauty is that's carried on. And so this year commemorates the 8th annual California Wine Month.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention your prior job was as executive director of the Paso Wine Country Alliance, Paso Robles being one of the key wine producing regions of our entire state. Jim Patterson, you are a supervisor. Is Paso in your district?
No, Paso isn't, but we do have a lot of wine growing areas in the 5th District as well as in northern San Luis Obispo County and central San Luis Obispo County.
And let's talk about that, because one wouldn't realize, unless you really looked into it, that San Luis Obispo County is a major wine producing region in our state. It's quite significant. Give us a sense, sir, about how wine plays a critical role in the economy of this county and this region, frankly, the whole Central Coast.
Yeah, well, it's a huge provider of jobs in San Luis Obispo County, as well as preserving the agricultural character of San Luis. The North County in particular has a lot of land where the climate is quite suited, and the wine industry goes back to the 40s really, where we had a lot of growers actually growing without irrigation along the 101 corridor in North County, and that's grown to be a large area over the entire North County, as well as central San Luis Obispo County in the Edna Valley near San Luis Obispo, and South County east of Arroyo Grande. The climate is perfect, the soils are excellent, and it's really grown over the past 20 years.
Yeah, and why don't you give us a sense, Stacie, of why this county has been able to take market share, frankly, in the wine industry. It is, I mean, I keep talking about Paso. I know it's just not Paso, but Paso Robles, I mean, it really has come alive when it comes to wine production.
Absolutely. When you take a look at San Luis Obispo County and you look at our finite wine regions here, being the Paso Robles appellation and the Edna Valley and Arroyo Grande appellations, you are talking about the differences between the Rhone Valley, the Bordeaux region, and Burgundy, all right here within our county.
Wow.
It's pretty interesting when you look at the various microclimates that we have from north to south in this area. And then you take all of that and you look at back what we're celebrating California Wine Month. San Luis Obispo County is the 3rd largest region next to Napa and Sonoma in the state of California.
It is that significant.
It's that significant. And when we talk about wine tourism, that is a huge significant piece.
And do talk to us about that, because I don't think people even realize that you don't have to drive all the way to Napa to go on a wine tasting. You can drive, if you're from Southern California, for example, to San Luis Obispo County, as my wife and I have, to Paso Robles or Arroyo Grande or wherever it may be. Please.
And that's absolutely right. And you know, we love that Robert Mondavi, who kind of blazed the trail back in the day of saying, wow, wine tourism can become this activity. Well, we've embraced that now. And when we look at the key tourism assets of San Luis Obispo County, you've got wine, you have Hearst Castle, and of course our wonderful beach communities. Yes. Now that's being very simplistic in it.
Oh, but it isn't though. It really is a troika of tremendous fun.
It is. And you know, the beauty of the value of the wine tourist coming to our community is so wonderful for us, because they come here with the intent to want to spend more dollars. So we think that they're a very important economic contributor to the overall piece.
And do explain, Jim Patterson, about how important that driver is. It's interesting when we look at the recent downturn in California, in the nation, San Luis Obispo County was just not hit that hard. It's just a statistical fact. And as I understand it, wine played at least a small role in keeping this region's economy humming, or at least not dropping like the rest of the state.
That's certainly part of it, Brad, the fact that those agricultural jobs were fairly stable, And Stacey really hit it on the head when she talked about the diversity of climates that we have here in a very small, relatively speaking, geographical area.
And you're a farmer.
I have farmed in the past.
You're being humble. I mean, you were a major farmer before you became a supervisor, no?
Well, long before.
But what did you farm grapes?
Actually, no, I farmed hay.
Hay, okay, well, that's important.
I farmed oats and alfalfa, which was really a big part of the agricultural production in North County until the grapes came along. Dryland grains was huge, along with cattle, which still is.
So has California arrived? I mean, or is there still a snobbery as it relates to wine? You want a French wine, an Italian wine, whatever it may be.
I think California is very much on the playing field from a global wine perspective. I think there's always different kinds of wines and different palates, of course, like different things. But I think the interesting thing we find right here in San Luis Obispo County is there's kind of no rules. And that's what we have winemakers from France that have chosen to come here because they don't have to follow the rules of the old country. So if they want to blend Bordeaux varieties and Rhone varieties together, they can do that. And that's the beauty of the New World.
I would be remiss if I did not mention that San Luis Obispo County is celebrating California Wine Month. And I know I want to be there for, it's an annual event. What number? Do you know?
We're on the 3rd annual.
Oh, I didn't realize it's that new.
Still very, very new.
Okay, so it's the Sunset Savor, the Central Coast. It is an event that's being held on September 29th and 30th. San Luis Obispo is right in the middle of the state, or between LA and San Francisco, I should say. It's right between LA and San Francisco, so there's no reason why, wherever you live, you can't come to San Luis Obispo County for the Savor, the Central Coast Sunset event. Tell us all about it.
So this is a true extravaganza. Sunset Magazine came down here about 4 years ago and found this really pristine site called the Santa Margarita Ranch, just at the base of the Cuesta Grade.
Which is where exactly? Be more specific.
Yeah, it's really close to Atascadero. So
okay.
Really,
well, it's about 8 miles north of San Luis Obispo, right off the 101.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
Go.
And this is a place where we have over 100 wineries, we have 30 local restaurants, and we bring in guest chefs. So this year, Ted Allen and Artie Sequeira of the Food Network will be with us.
Ted Allen?
The
Queer
Ted
eye
Allen.
for the straight guy.
You got it.
Chopped.
And chopped.
Yeah, okay, my wife is already
Excellent.
ready to go.
So it's really the best way to bring together celebrity chefs and pair them with our local chefs, and of course celebrate the great wine community that we have all under one area.
And I know, Jim Patterson, that you are a humble man and you will deny the fact that you have been you played a pivotal part in bringing this event. So why?
Well, actually, it was the VCB.
See, here we go. Here he goes again.
Partner that
but you played,
that brought this on. But the even though it's a 4-day event, the main weekend is at the Santa Margarita Ranch, and we worked with the VCB to really stage that venue and make it available to the folks countywide. And I've worked it actually, Brad, and that's something I want to speak to in terms of the significance relative to showcasing our agricultural heritage here in San Luis Obispo County, but also the diversity of the county. I've worked that event the last couple of years, and we have people coming
from sommelier
all over the,
or what do you
all over the country,
and all over the world,
and Canada, other countries to come and participate in this event. It's really an excellent opportunity to showcase the Central Coast. It includes Ventura, Santa Barbara, as well as Monterey, but the main focus is on San Luis Obispo.
Most importantly, Stacey, how can we buy tickets?
Oh, that is the best.
Most importantly.
There's so many things going on at the main event, and if you check out our website at savorcentralcoast.com,
it's on the screen.
You can buy your tickets. You can also check out the tremendous selection of both free seminars and our guest chef seminars that are going to be there, and of course, winemaker seminars.
And on that website, lodging inquiries can be made. I mean, it's a one-stop shop.
You've got it. Lodging is going to be there, also transportation. So we're really trying to make it your one-stop shop. Head to our website, and also an opportunity to come and really see what all showcases San Luis Obispo County and the Central Coast.
I want to thank you both so much for joining us. We have been speaking with Stacie Jacob. She is the Executive Director of the San Luis Obispo County Visitor and Conference Bureau, and of course Jim Patterson, a member of the Board of Supervisors in San Luis Obispo County. I'm Brad Pomerance. We'll be right back. Welcome back to California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. So glad you're still with us. Our guest is Blakeslee. She is with Friends of Wild Cherry Canyon. What is Wild Cherry Canyon?
Wild Cherry Canyon is a beautiful piece of property here
that
in
is
San Luis Obispo
understatement.
County. Yes, it's
Say
stunning.
it again. San Luis Obispo County.
San Luis Obispo County, located adjacent to Avila Beach. It's about 2,500 acres of rolling hills, coast wildflowers, oak woodlands, beautiful, beautiful, undeveloped, pristine land.
And let's back up. How did you become such a booster of Wild Cherry? Honestly.
I began my work on Wild Cherry Canyon when my older daughter was 3, and now she's a junior in high school. I became a booster because I had the opportunity to tour the property back in 1999, and the landowners expressed a willingness to sell it and pass it over to state parks to extend Montana de Oro.
And let's talk about state parks, which is in the news a great deal lately.
Unfortunately,
yes. Unfortunately, as you know, the State Parks Department of the state of California miraculously found $54 million and set off quite a controversy.
They did.
Because they had $54 million sitting there while 70, I think it was, state parks were set for closure.
Exactly.
Now, the good news is, with that money being located, the parks will not be closed, but there was a lot of anger because private dollars had been raised to keep some parks closed. I digress. Shouldn't that money help Wild Cherry Canyon?
Interestingly, no.
No.
The money that's set to fund that last piece of Wild Cherry Canyon has already been allocated. It's sitting in the coffers, and it's not even counted within that missing $54 million. So we can fund the project without that money.
So let's explain that, because the project needs about $21 million.
Correct.
And you have raised about $14 million, is that fair?
Yes.
And so what you need is $7 million from the Public Works Board within the state parks?
The way it works is the
please.
money, the last $7 million piece is under the umbrella of state parks.
Okay.
But Public Works Board is the state entity that has to allocate it for state parks and acquire the property on behalf of the state of California. So in order to get that last piece, we actually don't go to state parks, we go to the Public Works Board.
Who are they?
It's just a very small group of people who are government officials, mostly appointed by the governor.
Okay.
And they meet monthly and they decide what kind of projects or land is acquired by the state of California.
And as I understand it, there is a budget for land acquisition.
Yes.
Sufficient enough so that it could fund this $6.9 million that you need.
Absolutely. The money to do this project is there and ready to go, and it can't be spent for anything else besides land conservation.
And what's interesting is you were butting up against a termination of a lease.
That's right.
Explain that if you can.
Well, the American Land Conservancy has an option to purchase this property. We originally entered into the option many, many years ago. It's been extended several times. The landowners said that they would grant their last extension by September of this year. Fortunately, they've agreed to one more extension on December 31st of 2012. So we have to get the project together by the end of this year, or they will threaten to expire that option agreement.
Well, this is a challenge because as we speak, we're in the middle of an election cycle.
Correct.
For better or for worse, you are married to Sam Blakeslee, who's a state senator.
True.
He is not running for re-election.
Yes.
So I'm not really sure how that plays. But, you know, there's just a lot of complicating factors. I don't mean to say that pejoratively, but you know what I'm getting at.
It's very complicated, and it's complicated by the fact that after the state park scandal occurred and that money that was hidden away was discovered, many people were let go. Unfortunately, a lot of those people that were let go were the principal parties working on Wild Cherry Canyon. So on top of all the difficulties you suggest, we also don't have any people who have a lot of history with this project in state parks. So in some ways, we're starting from scratch.
Now, what's interesting is the future state senator is, this is what pundits are saying, likely to be someone named Bill Monning.
Very likely.
I'm not saying he's going to win, but you know that's what it looks like. And Bill Monning is a Democrat. He has represented areas to the north of San Luis Obispo County, so he hasn't necessarily known San Luis Obispo County as well as, for example, Mr. Blakeslee, your husband, who has lived here most of his life. So are you in touch with Bill Monning? And the reason I push you on that is, you know, he's a Democrat, Sam Blakeslee a Republican, Cacho Ashajian a Republican, he's the assembly member, so maybe the Democrat can help you with the administration.
Well, that's our hope. I mean, Sam Blakeslee knows this property extremely well and has been a huge proponent. But I think the fact that he has been a Republican of a different party of the governor probably hasn't helped us.
Right.
So most likely, statistically speaking, Bill Monning will be elected. And if that is the case, the fact that he is a Democrat will probably be of some assistance. But there are bigger issues than that, too.
Well, it's interesting. I saw Mr. Monning in Sacramento recently, and I said to him, have you met Kara Blakeslee? She's a big proponent of the Wild Cherry Canyon project. He's like,
Thank you.
Yes, of course I have.
Yes.
I know all about it. So it's already on his radar.
It is, and he's taken a tour of the property as well, and he thought it was beautiful, as most people do. He was very supportive.
So, you know, I come back to the fact, though, that December 31st is but, 2 months after the election.
Right.
And I guess arguably Mr. Monning will be sworn in December, but still, I mean...
How does it all happen together?
Well,
I think the way I would look at it is, if we make no progress whatsoever, I can expect for that option to be terminated, and our opportunity to acquire Wild Cherry Canyon will be over. On the other hand, if we can demonstrate progress, like if we can get at least on the agenda, I believe that we could go back to the landowner and ask for another extension, as long as they see some kind of progress.
So, if we have viewers that are watching that would like to support your efforts, we can talk about the financial side in a second. Can they call the Public Works Board and say, put it on the agenda, or is it just not that type of
Well, they
organization?
certainly could. I'm not sure it will necessarily help. What I would say for listeners, go to wildcherrycanyon.org. Visit our website. Everything you'd want to know about that project is right there on the website. There's also a way to donate.
Yes, and please, I mean,
and although we're not looking for acquisition money, the state has said we also have to raise a $1 million endowment to help pay for management costs once the property is open.
And how's that going, the endowment side?
It's going pretty well. We haven't even begun our major fundraising efforts, but we've brought in about $250,000.
So let's presume that it all goes well and Wild Cherry Canyon is acquired. What can we expect for the property? What will you do?
Oh, it would be so great when that day comes. Okay, so if this project is successful, we will not only get 2,500 acres of Wild Cherry Canyon added to Montana de Oro, we will also get 1,500 acres of the Hybrid Preserve, which is next door, also donated to the state at the same time. So we're really talking about 4,000 new acres to Montana de Oro. And in addition to that, with those two pieces, we have a connection for the new Coastal Trail extension, so that you could actually start in the morning, have breakfast in Avila, walk 20, 25 miles if you can do it, and maybe have dinner in Montana de Oro, or perhaps spend the night halfway at a campsite in between. So these two projects enable the connection between Avila and Morro Bay. So it's really great. You hike all day and night and you'll never see a car.
Am I looking at the future executive director of this project? I mean, is that something?
The way it works, once this project closed, the land transfers to state parks,
so it
it's
becomes
up to
a state
them.
park, right?
That's
literally.
right. It becomes part of Montana de Oro State Park.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the senator. I know he is, I was just speaking with a member of a local city council who, a Democrat herself, said, I am a Democrat, but I have voted for Sam Blakeslee, from day one. And so many are wondering, what does the future hold for your husband?
Well, I think Sam has
or
had
immediate future.
Well, Sam's had a great political future, and we don't know exactly what the future holds. But right now, he is embarked upon a new think tank called the California Reform Institute, and he's gearing up to work with many people to develop some bipartisan solutions to some of the problems that plague the state of California.
And
so I think it's very exciting.
Yeah, and some have argued that he has been bipartisan during his career.
Yes, he has.
What about, as I drove to a local restaurant, I saw Blakeslee and Blakeslee. I saw the sun. What about Blakeslee and Blakeslee? Is that going to
that's where I work.
That's where, so you're the Blakeslee, but is he the other Blakeslee?
Well, actually, Blakeslee and Blakeslee refers to his parents originally, who are no longer involved in the business. But yes, Sam is the president of that company, and he will be more engaged in the future than he has been in the past. Although I think his efforts are going to be focused primarily on the California Reform Institute.
I want to wish you the best of luck with Wild Cherry Canyon. We'll look towards that December 31st date. Her name is Kara Blakeslee. She is with Friends of Wild Cherry Canyon. My name is Brad Pomerance. Thanks for watching California Edition. We'll be right back. Welcome back to California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest is Patti Toews. She is the Program Director for the San Luis Obispo County Integrated Waste Management Authority, which is what?
It's a big title. It's
Yes.
a big comprehensive program or entity that helps out in many ways. Everything from the plastic bag ban that's coming
Which we'll
up,
talk about.
right, to recycling, to universal waste, to hazardous waste. We do so many things at the Integrated Waste Management Authority.
And let's talk about plastics, because throughout California, starting in 2007 with the city of San Francisco, there have been bans enacted on the plastic bag, the ubiquitous plastic bag, the plastic bag which Californians use 12 billion times every year.
Right. Actually, it's huge. And a lot of people use plastic bags when they don't need to. And it's become a problem for local governments because of litter abatement costs. If we want to minimize the cost of government, want to minimize our government impact and the spending, we need to get rid of plastic
And when you
bags.
drive on the freeway, you see these plastic bags flying everywhere. They hit your windshield.
Right.
And you know, that's a nuisance. But for some, what's more crushing is when you see a seagull, a duck, a turtle, a tortoise being ensnared in these plastic bags.
That's true. Our marine environment is really affected by plastic. Even if you don't even see them ensnared, plastic, when it breaks down in the environment, breaks down to tiny pieces. They ingest them, and unfortunately, they feel full, yet plastic doesn't offer any nutrition. So you have cases of starvation. It's important to remove this from our environment.
And I had learned that there is a swath, a huge swath in the Pacific Ocean where plastics are just accumulating.
True, and we only see the surface. Remember, it goes for thousands of feet deep.
Okay, so let's talk about San Luis Obispo County, where we are today, as an example of what many municipalities are doing. Explain what's happening in this county.
Starting October 1st, plastic bags, the single-use t-shirt
Right.
style bags, are going to be banned from these stores.
Completely.
Well, now, if you're a store that has over 10,000 square foot, or if you're a grocery store, or a convenience store, or even a pharmacy, they will no longer be able to give out plastic bags.
Okay, and so will anyone be able to give out plastic bags?
There are a few tiny stores in
Right.
the county that can, just if they're very small and they don't have any food products on their shelves.
So let's talk about this, because it is somewhat controversial for some.
Right.
Yet there does seem to be a wave of it throughout the state of California.
Right.
It was a winding web to get it passed in San Luis Obispo County.
True.
Give me a little background.
Well, there's a lot of people who love the idea of banning plastics. In fact, we get constantly phone calls from people who say, what took you so long, basically? This is a no-brainer. We live on the ocean. We see them blowing, like you said, on our highways, roadways. Then we have the other camp who do not think that government should get involved in their business.
And we've heard the expression tyranny wrapped in environmentalism.
Right. You know, and that was the same case with when we made people wear helmets, the same case with the seat belts. Change is scary for people, but in the end, it will help our community be a better place, especially since we definitely depend on tourism. And what we don't want is people coming to our county and seeing nothing but litter, bags in our marine environment or on our roadways.
Now, there have been lawsuits brought to prevent the ban from moving forward.
True.
What can you tell us about these pieces of litigation?
Well, each, I should say, county or city who has passed these bans, or most of them, have faced these similar suits by the same entity. However, they've never...
And who is this entity?
It's backed up by the Petroleum or the Chemistry Council.
Okay.
They've never been successful to date. However, that doesn't stop them from continuing to file these suits.
And they have filed them in San Luis Obispo County, and as I understand it, they have not been successful.
That's correct. We are still going forward. October 1st, day one, no more plastic bags.
And let's talk about the replacements, because we will need replacements.
That's right.
And you have brought one such example.
Well, you know, obviously, it's difficult to remember your bags. That's the hardest part. And so I think as a lady, we're lucky. We can just throw these in our bag, our purses.
Right.
And you don't have to remember to put pull them from your trunk.
Right.
These are huge. I have 3 of these in my bag. They
Right.
fill them up. And then when I take the groceries in, I unload the groceries, I fold it back up and stick it right away
I
in my purse.
actually have a few in my car, so even the guys can do it.
Good, good, good.
Now, I have heard some people say that if there is some leakage of meat products on those bags, that can cause a health crisis.
All you have to do is wash it, and that's great. These are washable. I've washed these so many times and they still hold up. Another thing to remember, that the produce bags and your meat bags inside your grocery stores here in San Luis Obispo are not going to be banned. Anytime you purchase meat, continue to put it in that plastic bag.
Which is probably safest.
That's right, and it'll protect your bags as well. If something does leak, just throw it in the washer and wash
What do we
it.
use when we take our dog for a walk?
Newspaper bags. Have you heard
Well,
of a lot of people use their newspaper bags?
So the plastics, when there's a rainstorm, those are not banned?
Those are not banned.
Okay.
Neither are the dry cleaning bags. There was a lot of people who were panicked about that. So you can still have your dry cleaning bag as well.
Used for the doggy you-know-what.
Right.
Now, if you forget those bags
Right.
at a grocery store
And it's
or
going to
whatever,
happen.
and it always
It
happens
does.
to me.
It does.
There are options.
Right.
One is, I understand that those bags are often for sale.
They are. In every single store that is removing the plastic, by law, they'll have reusable bags for sale. In some cases, as cheap as 33 cents, so it's not too terribly much of a burden.
Now, if you don't want to buy a reusable bag, you do have another option.
You do.
And that's paper.
That's right, but you need to pay 10 cents for every paper bag.
Was there a discussion about whether paper bags should be permitted?
Well, there's been
Well,
a lot of back and forth
yes.
on that. But you know what? We don't want the county to just shift over to paper, because paper has a negative carbon footprint as well.
Right.
During the manufacturing process, there's a lot of chemicals that go into making paper, as well as it's heavier during transportation. So there's a carbon footprint there.
So 10 cents per paper bag if you so choose.
That's right.
And where does that money go?
That money goes to each retailer to cover the cost of plastic bags, to be quite frank.
Or the paper bags, you mean.
Excuse me,
Yeah,
paper
right.
bag. Paper bags are more expensive than plastic bags.
Right.
And what we don't want to do is burden our small businesses. We want them to be able to recuperate that cost.
Sure.
Yet at the same time, abide by this new ordinance.
Right. Now, when I go to some of the big box stores,
Right.
they give me boxes.
And even some of the small stores too, for free. So that's an option for people.
And those boxes are permissible. There's no question that
Absolutely
they can continue.
fine.
Another option, and I do this sometimes, I just go without.
I know, and that's nice. Just throw it in the cart. It's okay.
Yeah, I don't need a bag at all
Right,
times.
right.
Okay, so how's the response been? Are you getting pushback, or is there uniform? I shouldn't say uniform, but are consumers okay with the future?
We have people who are very upset about it, because it took us so long to do this.
Oh,
And we
interesting.
have people who are very upset about it, again, because they don't want us to do this. So it's a 50-50 thing.
Is it
The
50-50?
people in the middle are very quiet. I think most people understand that we are a tourist community. We'd like to see it clean. We're not going to get involved in that fight. We understand that occasionally we're going to be inconvenienced. We're all going to forget our bags, but it is for the betterment of our community, and that's important.
What about the notion that maybe this should be a statewide issue? Do we have any sense? I believe in 2010 there had been an attempt to create a statewide solution on this issue. It didn't move forward. Do you have a sense of where we are on that?
I do. In fact, it was just before the state legislature recently, but it didn't pass. Next time it will.
You believe
know
so?
it. With all the cities that are taking and banning plastic bags, it's just going to be easier for the state as a whole to ban it across the board. It's easier for retailers.
Right, and as I understand it, some major counties, LA County, I mean,
Completely banned.
I mean, that's 10 million people, as
Huge.
larger than the state of Michigan.
Right.
So the momentum does seem to be heading toward a ban of plastics, but you are convinced that there are alternate solutions that won't be too disruptive.
Right, I am. I think that we can do this, and I think it's a good thing, and I think it'll make San Luis Obispo County so much better.
Okay, her name is Patti Toews. She is the program director for the San Luis Obispo County Integrated Waste Management Authority. My name is Brad Pomerance. We thank you so much for watching California Edition.